Hello class, welcome to today's lesson. Today we're talking about impediments to freedom. Before we do that, we have to talk about what freedom is. Remember back earlier in the semester, freedom is the ability to do the good according to one's responsibility. So when I think about, am I free to do what I'm supposed to do in life? There are certain things that get in our way to the ability of doing the good. In today's class, we'll talk about 6 of those. Make sure you do the reading. This reading for this section comes from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. The notes are in there, so I won't really go through each definition, but I will give examples to illustrate each of these 6 impediments. So, an impediment to our freedom is an obstacle to our freedom that it limits our responsibility or blameworthiness for an action. For each of these, our ability to choose is diminished and sometimes completely eliminated. So, freedom is the ability to do the good. Each of these things take away our ability to do the good. Each of these cause us to be less free. They cause us to not be able to choose the good. The more free a person is, the less these affect the person. So someone who has freedom from bad habits, right? Their bad habits do not cause them to not have the ability to choose the good. Take inordinate attachments. Someone who has an inordinate attachment, they're attached to something so much, their ability to do the good, they can't get away from this attachment. But someone who is truly free, they don't have this inordinate attachment. They have the freedom to choose to do the good, or the freedom to have that attachment. They're not bound to it. So let's take a look at each of these 6. The first one is ignorance, and that's very simple. This is simply the not knowing what to do. So for example, let's take these online classes that you're supposed to be doing. Do you know what you're supposed to be doing in each of these classes? Ignorance is not to know what you're supposed to do. So when you think of this class, do you know what your responsibility is? Sometimes you don't know just because you're ignorant. You truly just don't know. If you're free to do the good, then you are free and you have the knowledge of what the good is. Now, this is different than willful ignorance. Think about this. Have you ever said, you know what, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do, therefore I can just give an excuse why I didn't do it when I'm asked, right? So think about this. My kids, they do chores. And my son Philip today, he was supposed to make his bed. And he's still learning to make his bed. He's a young kid. And my wife came into his room and he had not made his bed yet. And she was very upset at him. And the reason was because he said, I don't know how to make my bed. And he could have asked to be taught. He could have asked to learn, but he didn't because he had a reason not to make his bed. Willful ignorance. We're not talking about willful ignorance. We're talking about true ignorance. When you try to seek out the information, but you just don't know. The second is inadvertence, not paying attention or being distracted. This is pretty simple. I was distracted from doing the right thing. I was distracted from the good. And I wasn't able to do the good because, oh, look, there's a squirrel, right? The next is duress. A duress is external, so something outside of yourself that causes you to act against your will. The extreme example of this is someone's holding a gun to my head and says, do this or I'm going to kill you. That's an extreme example of duress. A more common example of duress is peer pressure. We have peer pressure to not look dumb or not be the social outcast. Inordinate attachments. I'll give an example of myself. Yesterday, I had a fire. When I have a fire, I usually like to have a little chocolate or have some marshmallow or s'more, right? But as you know, I'm doing my Exodus 90, and I still wanted that chocolate, right? I opened up the cabinet, and there it was, staring right at me. Snickers bar. It's a little Snickers bar, tiny one, but still, it's just staring right at me, right? And this inordinate attachment, I'm just drawn to it. Someone who is truly free, all the chocolate, now the chocolate, doesn't bug me. But someone who's not truly free, they're just so attached to it, so much, they cannot choose not to do it. Hey, Philip. Come here. Say hi.
Hi.
All right, now get out, bud.
I heard you talking about me.
Yeah, we were. And when you think about Lent, your Lenten promise is coming. So that's Philip. And one thing about Philip, he's actually doing really good in that he's giving up sugar during Lent. and he loves sugar like most little kids, right? But he's not so inordinately attached to it that he can't not give up sugar. So last night we're having s'mores, and he's like, "No, I'm good. I don't need it." And it shows that he has the freedom to not eat the s'more, which is pretty good for a kid of 8 years old. Fear, you guys know what fear is. It's an emotional state, right? And an example of this is I studied for the test. I tried hard for the test, but I had so much anxiety and fear of me during testing time, I wasn't able to do good. So someone who's truly free, they're able to do the good. And, working hard, getting a good grade on a test is a good, but they have so much fear inside of them that they can't do the good. And finally, the last one is a habit. A habit is a repeated bad behavior that ensnares our ability to do the good. When we think about a repeated behaviors are called habits. You do it over and over and over again. Good repeated behaviors are called virtues. Bad repeated behaviors are called vices. We'll talk a bit more about that later on in the semester. So when you think about it, think about this. You ever have your phone out? And let's say right now, do you have your phone? In these last 6 minutes, have you checked your phone? Have you? You just gone down and checked your phone. It becomes such a habit. You just do it instinctively, right? And you should zone in, pay attention, but you have such a habit, you just do it again and again and again. One last thing I'll say about these attachments, about these 6 limits to our freedoms, these 6 impediments, is that often they will go hand in hand. You'll see 2 of them or 3 of them go together. For example, take an example as video. The example I just gave you. I should pay attention to the video, but I got distracted by my phone. That is both inadvertence, I got distracted by my phone, and also a bad habit. I have the habit of checking my phone. Fear and duress go hand in hand all the time. You see fear and duress go hand in hand quite frequently. And lastly, our inadvertence often causes our ignorance. So speeding is a good example. I sped. Why did I speed? I sped because I didn't know the speed limit. Why did I know the speed limit? I didn't know the speed limit. I was ignorant of the speed limit because I was distracted, had inadvertence. I was distracted because I was talking to the person next to me or something else. And so you will frequently see these go hand in hand. The key of the Christian life is to try to eliminate these 6 things from ourselves. Now, these 6 things actually lower our moral culpability. When you think about the 3 aspects, the moral object, the intention, and the circumstances, a lot of times these will fit in the circumstances aspect. And remember, circumstances, they don't usually make a good thing bad or a bad thing good, but they raise or lower our moral culpability. And they usually raise or lower our moral ability. And the key is to have as high a moral standard as we can. And the highest moral standard that we have is created by trying to eliminate these 6. It's something you do every day. As a Christian, you will spend every single day of your life trying to eliminate these 6. Good luck. It's tough, but that's what life's all about.